Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining the Clallam County Economic Development Council's EDC Coffee Chat, Coffee with Colleen. We are excited to have Stephen Raider-Ginsburg join us today from Field Arts and Events Hall. Steve is the executive director. I'm sure most of you have met him before, but this is their whopping 1-year anniversary. So he's here to share a bit with us about their progress and events. And so we really appreciate you coming on, Steve. Just a few house cleaning items before we get going. If you want to ask Steve any questions, we like to keep it interactive. So either raise your hand and we'll call on you, or if you would rather I ask the question, you can put your question in the chat. So with that, Steve, thanks so much for joining us. And I see you have some of your staff and board members with us as well. So if you want to introduce anyone, please do, and take it away.
Sure. I'm trying to see who's on the meeting so I can introduce. I know the president of the board, Judge Brooke Taylor, is on. If anybody else is on, feel free to unmute yourself and say hello. But I will start this and thanks. Good morning. Thanks, Colleen. We love the work you do at the EDC and pleasure to be here today.
Thank you.
I'll start it up. I have some work to share and some videos. Here we go. Okay, now play from the start. Okay. As Colleen said, we are 1 year old now. So I gave myself a little birthday party. We actually have had a few celebrations this summer. Being 1 year old feels like a major feat. And so just to give you an overview and a reminder of what we are, Field Arts and Events Hall is a 501c3 nonprofit. We have oversight with a 13-person board of directors. Judge Brooke Taylor is our president of the board and has been since 2016. And this is a community-driven project. This is not, sometimes people think, oh, this must be city, it must be state, there must be something going on. This was a community-driven project from the beginning. The people of Clallam County and the North Olympic Peninsula have made it. Since the beginning, as I said, it's driven by people in our community. You can see this image. This is the Port Angeles City Ballet performing the Nutcracker on our stage this past year. We've had 2,626 individual philanthropic gifts that have made this possible. Currently, we have 200 volunteers. They support events, the gallery, all sorts of volunteer opportunities.
Steve, we're seeing slide 47 out of 57. There we go. Oh. I'm seeing slide 47 out of 57.
Well, that's not right. How do I fix that?
I was going to say,
You need to start the show.
It did that. It was working on my screen, and I thought that's what you were seeing. So let me.
I didn't think that was the point.
How about now?
Yes, there we go. Perfect.
Okay, we're starting over, and I can do this quickly to catch you up. Here we go, 1 year old. That's my birthday party. And here's our overview. Nonprofit. We're an oversight with a 13 board of directors. And we have community, and this is a community-driven project. Now we are where I was. And you can see that the Nutcracker, I'm sure it's better than whatever was on slide 47. This is our philanthropic gifts have been 2,626 to get us to the point today, with 200 volunteers supporting our events. Our mission, why do we exist? It's to be a home for arts and events that brings people together and strengthens our community. And we have a vision. The vision is to inspire, nurture, and empower the local arts community enrich local cultural and educational experiences, and spark economic activity throughout the region. So from 2016 to 2022, this was a vision that we were not quite yet ready to enact. And we have been doing all of this, meeting our promise to the community since 2023 when we opened, and we'll go through some of that background. How did it happen? This is something that such a small community pulled off something so amazing. And we have communities around the Pacific Northwest who call us, who are trying to do the same thing and build a world-class or a regional performing arts center. And usually they talk to Brooke and they say, how have you shepherded this from the beginning? This is a quick timeline of how that happened. In our early years, this all started with a local patron, Donna Morris. She bequests $9 million to support that helps solidify this vision for a world-class performing arts center. And in her bequest, Donna Morris said, this has to be in the city of Port Angeles. She was really moved by the unbelievable arts history and passion for the arts in this city, and she wanted a building that reflected that passion. You could see a group of people sitting around Dorothy Field's dining room table, making the plans and really incorporating the 501c3 that we are today, which is officially called the Port Angeles Waterfront Center. Dorothy Field in 2018 purchased the future site of Field Arts and Events Hall. It was the last prime waterfront location available for purchase in downtown Port Angeles. And in 2019, LMN Architects, who have an amazing background of building arts, including Benaroya Hall and many other award-winning arts buildings, were brought on. And then after that, in March of 2020 was the groundbreaking. That marked the start of construction. And by most standards, going at this speed is lightning speed for the creation of a facility such as this. Unfortunately, 2021, the world had a pandemic, and that seriously affected our timing. It hit at the worst possible time. We were in the midst of building, and the decision was, let's get to a complete shell and core so the building can be enclosed, made safe, and then walk off the building site until we knew it was safe to come back. And in 2022, the construction resumed, the focus on finishing the interior. July 2023 was our opening weekend. Hopefully you all on the call have participated in some of that. It was about a 4-day extravaganza. And then September 2023, our performance season kicked off with a concert by Frankie Moreno, who had a return visit to kick off our 2024 season just last Thursday. March of 2024, the last part of the interior building was completed, and that was the waterfront coffee bar. And then this September, we just brought together, this month, really initiated a silent phase for what we're calling the All-In Capital Campaign, focused on securing the additional funding to close out our construction costs. I'm going to play a video, and then we'll get back to some of the economics, which is the focus of today's talk.
Port Angeles is a city that for decades has seen an increase in the amount of people that come through the city to visit the Olympic Mountain Range, to visit Victoria. And now with Field Arts and Events Hall opening, Port Angeles will become a destination for arts, for culture, and for events in the North Peninsula.
The Field Arts and Events Hall is the most state-of-the-art conference and performing arts center on the Olympic Peninsula.
We think of this site as being right at that intersection between the historic downtown, the working waterfront, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and hurricane range in the Olympic Mountains. So we knew we had to capture all of those things. It was quickly apparent that not only does this theater need to accommodate the symphony, performing arts, and rock music, and spoken word and lectures, it also needs to have a conference space that can host weddings and can host galas and could become just a daily hangout.
What's exciting about Field Arts and Events Hall is it has all sorts of different spaces that can be accessed at different times. So it lets us be continuously open to the public. There's a couple of things in this building that give you the aha experience. You can walk up the grand staircase, and when you crest to the top and you get a magnificently breathtaking view, 180 degrees, 22 miles out, it's stunning. But the jewel of Field Arts and Events Hall is the 500-seat theater. When you walk into the theater, you're entering a vestibule, and then about 8 feet into the theater, and the whole volume of the theater opens up in front of you. So you see the ceiling, you see the stage, you see the balcony and the box seats, and everything comes together like, this is a nice little nest of a theater. And it's a perfect place to watch a show.
But when you walk into the theater, you look around, you see these big heavy timbers on the walls, and it's this beautiful, detail and articulation of the space. Those are timbers that were milled miles from the project. They were cut down and kiln dried and brought to the site for this project, donated by Port Angeles Hardwoods. And to me, that is a material that you look at it, and not only is it historically significant in Port Angeles, it also is Port Angeles. It's from Port Angeles by people from Port Angeles.
And I've been thrilled here with the accessibility that was thought into the building, that there's no thresholds, that a patron can easily get anywhere in the building, from the cafe to the gallery, into the theater and the conference space, without worry and total ease. So that is, I've never been in a building with such easy mobility.
Adjacent to the north entry of the building, we've added a gallery space that opens out to the park and out to the lobby, specifically for local art shows, local artists to have a space to show their work. During the design process, we were struck by the vibrancy of the sunsets in Port Angeles. There's these really rich, dark green blues, and you see that color really throughout the building. Then it's accented by these bright yellows and these really warm oranges. And so that became both the branding for the building and for the organization, but you also find it in a couple key moments of the building. The building has been designed to, during the day, reflect the landscape, to really be a part of that Pacific Northwest experience and capturing the water in the mountains. It's about downtown Port Angeles. It's about bringing that life of these performing arts events and these conferences and these weddings and letting them spill out into the park, letting them spill into the waterfront.
Field Arts and Events Hall has created a new chapter here for a reinvigoration, and it feels like a renaissance that's happening. There is a central point where all sorts of artistic groups, thought leaders, service groups, clubs, they're coming here to meet, talk, see work. The exploration, the connection, and the community building that we see on the North Olympic Peninsula is astounding. And the same people come here. I've heard people say, this is my 4th time here this week. And they're experiencing the space set up in a different way. It's being used different, or they're in a different part of the building, and it continually surprises people, and they're willing to come back over and over again.
My hope is that after people visit this building, they come away with not only an appreciation for the building, for the artists, but also for Port Angeles and for the region.
So it's been a long journey to get here, and we've had our challenges along the way. When the COVID-19 pandemic forced our construction pause, Field Hall projected that our contributions and pledges were to guarantee an opening of a fully funded project. And then everybody on the call has felt this, and everybody in the country has felt this. If you look at this chart, this shows our annual inflation rates. We went into that pause 2020 to 2021, and you can see it historically one of the highest, if not the highest, inflation jumps, 7% in 2021, 6.5%. And that's just across the board, but it hit the building trades the hardest. And we decided, as we saw at the beginning of 2021, these prices start to rise, we made a headlong jump into finishing this project as quickly as possible to get ahead of those costs. But when construction resumed, the remaining material and labor costs rose an unprecedented 48% for the completion of the building. This created a $10 million funding gap. But we got there, and we, with the help of First Fed and our community, we were able to really pull out on what we didn't have in the bank, line of credit, felt that this was the most important thing to finish, get this operational. So July 29th to 30th of 2023, if you remember, we had dancers on the building, the nationally Grammy nominated or Grammy award winning Diane Shure, Ranky Tanky, Unit Sozu as headliners, as well as community celebrations. Here's how we celebrated with free performances outside the building, bringing the dance company Bandaloop, who danced on the north side of the building itself. But I want to really get into the economics of this for this EDC call. So what do arts do, and why are they so important? This is a quote from Ken Ferguson from Oklahoma. He's the past chair of the American Bankers Association. He said, as a banker, I have witnessed businesses in almost every city and town in my state. And there's a visible difference in places with a vibrant arts community. I see people looking for places to park, stores staying open late, and restaurants packed with diners. The business day is extended and the cash registers are ringing. Arts generates jobs and tax revenue. Arts diversifies our economy. Art strengthens visitor economy, and it creates visibility far beyond the region. Arts and culture tourists, and we know that tourism is a growing piece of our economy here. It's becoming more and more important year after year. And as communities compete for tourists' dollars, arts and culture is a proven magnet for travelers and their money. Local businesses grow because travelers extend the length of their trips to attend art events. Multiple research studies have shown that travelers who include arts and culture on their trips are ideal tourists and differ from other U.S. travelers in several important ways. Arts and culture travelers spend more money than other travelers. They are more likely to stay in a hotel or bed and breakfast. They're more likely to spend $1,000 or more during their stay, and they stay longer than other travelers. More than 2/3 or 68% of American adult travelers included a cultural arts, heritage, or historic activity or event while on a trip of 50 miles or more. So this is what we are looking to add on and increase the visitations and tourism to Clallam and to the North Olympic Peninsula by offering this cultural magnet. It's a great thing that one of the forward thinkings of Washington State includes the lodging tax fund. This lodging tax fund under this RCW can be used for a number of things for funding. Both Port Angeles City and Clallam County have lodging tax funds and lodging tax committee that put out those funds. There's different buckets for those funds, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if we look at the one I've highlighted, the lodging tax fund supports the operations of a tourism-related facility owned or operated by a nonprofit, by a 501c3. So that's some built-in support for because the investment in the arts is a multiplier. This is some of the I can drop links in later at the end of where these all came from. This is basically from Americans for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Arts. Do these national studies every few years. So this was a study in 2022. I'm just going to highlight what some of these results were. 151, this is national, it's $151 billion of economic activity in the arts and culture sector. This is performing arts, in the 73.3 billion in spending by arts and culture organizations, 78.4 billion in event-related expenditures by their audiences, 2.6 million jobs supported, 101 billion in income generation, and 29.1 billion in tax revenue to local, state, and federal governments. And this is, so it's not just a nice or an extra. This is a major part of the U.S. economy And it can be a growing part. Washington exceeds all states in the country in its arts and culture economy. So Americans for the Arts says investments in arts and culture not only enhance the quality of life, but also stimulate economic development. By supporting the arts, companies attract and retain talent and create an environment where creativity, business, and communities thrive. What have we done here in our first year? And Field Hall is just getting its engines fired up. We are on the on-ramp, ramping up. What we've been able to find out is that our direct and indirect activities have supported over 100 jobs, and those are full-time and part-time jobs. We've made significant contributions to our tax base, and there have been over 5,000 room nights in lodging. Field Hall has received over 75,000 visitors since opening in July 2023. And our first year of operation, we've had $6.5 million of economic impact. That's through ticket sales, visitors spending, job creation, tax, all of the ways that we touch the economy. Karen Hannon, who is a Port Angeles resident, founder of Juan de Fuca Festival for the Arts, also the executive director of Arts WA. She said about Field Hall, a vibrant arts community is the heart and soul of a city. It is an economic driver, fosters creativity, inspires innovation, and brings people together. Since opening its doors a few short years ago, really just 1 year ago, Field Arts and Events Hall has become a beacon of culture for Port Angeles and its surroundings, enriching the lives of our residents and visitors alike. And there's so much more to come. So what is this asset that now the community has built, the pieces and parts of it? This is the first floor. We have 2 dressing rooms that offer 22, it's a person choral dressing rooms, as well as 2 lead principal dressing rooms. So we have 4 dressing rooms backstage, can accommodate huge casts like the Nutcracker and others. We have a 1,000 square foot gallery with rotating exhibits featuring North Olympic Peninsula artists. We have our waterfront coffee bar open 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and some other special times throughout the week, but Monday through Saturday, as well as our 500-seat theater and the our lobby, which is great gathering space. On the second floor, we have a finishing equipment equipped for both caterers, and we're doing some in-house catering ourselves as well. But we've had dozens of caterers come through. Actually, Dakine Hawaiian Truck just catered a delicious food for this wedding this past weekend. Our Sunset Lounge and Events Center has hosted many nonprofit galas, weddings, community events, yoga classes, high school reunions. We have a balcony, and we have our McGraw Family Foundation room, which is a terrific boardroom and a meeting room. And we just on last Friday, had a 90th birthday party. So someone turned 90 and we converted that room to a fun little party room. We are bringing world-class performances on stage. This is Erv Kobi, a dance company that is touring the world. They're out of France and playing some of the best theaters across the country. Were performed here last year. This is a view from our balcony just prior to a performance, music performance. And you can see how every seat feels intimate and close, even the furthest back in the balcony. Here's an example of our setup for gala events in the center. This evening, we saw orcas right out the window. Here's another shot from the same night. Our McGraw room. And since just January of 2024, so we're barely 9 months in, we've had 4,767 gallery visits. And that's with 2 shows, and another one just opened a couple weeks ago. We'll be having 2 more shows. So we have 4 gallery shows per year. Here's what our gallery looks like. And this was the North Olympic. This is the Fiber Arts Association. Mary Sue French, downtown business owner, was instrumental in helping to put this together. Beautiful and well attended. This is the view of our coffee shop. Terrific coffee. Come on in. Bill Herman, owner of Herman Brothers Logging and Construction, said, "We now have the opportunity to experience classy cultural events right here at home. This is like going to events usually experienced in the larger cities without the commute. The variety of performances are tailored for our diverse attendee groups, and the attendees respond to the type of show that's being presented. From tie to tails to blue jeans and t-shirts, we all feel at home." That was a very conscious intention. There are some of our patrons who say, "I love coming there because it gives me a place to dress up and go to." And some folks are coming here right after work, don't even own a suit or a tie. So we're all welcome, and it is a home for all. We have our second season coming up, our 24-25 season after a successful first season. Calendar is full. As you can see, this is September, and it's dotted through events tonight. It's a Kelly Johnson Windermere Realty sponsored film, Bohemian Rhapsody. It is a sing-along experience, so come dressed up and ready to sing along and party to some Queen's music this evening. You can see we have lots of different music and films, theater, science. Our family programs are really expanding this year, and we do have some 21 plus, like comedy nights and some other things that happen in the Sunset Lounge. We've also started a membership program. We have about 200 members who've joined since we've started. Really amazing energy to join this program. You can see you can start a membership at $100, and you can go all the way up to $10,000. This is designed to be a benefit to support a nonprofit organization, to benefit both Field Arts and Events Hall, to increase our quality of programming, as well as give you access as a member to some exclusive opportunities. So you can find out more about that. I also want to share that we have sponsorship opportunities. As I said, tonight is a Kelly Johnson sponsored film. Our season opener was sponsored by Country Air. Peninsula Bottling Company is sponsoring Dr. Kaboom coming up. There's amazing benefits for you, your company, and to get out there, not only with marketing, but have some internal benefits to be able to strengthen and have a great experience for you and your staff. So you can talk to us anytime about sponsorship opportunities. And we are getting noticed way beyond the peninsula. This is Seattle Times. This was just in July, this came out. And this is, Port Angeles, music on the street. It's a worthy road trip destination. You can't get really better paid advertising other than to be a huge full feature in the Seattle Times print edition of their arts and entertainment section. James Garlick said, "With the new venue at Field Hall, we are able to open our doors to more communities such as Victoria and Seattle." He is the founder of Music on the Street. This is James and I. Our organizations work together, and I think this is a great example of a collaboration. This is the only Steinway D concert piano on the peninsula, certainly in a facility like Field Arts and Events Hall that was built to be an acoustic experience and listening room. So we split the cost of this. It was a used, affordable Steinway, over $200,000 new, purchased it for $65,000. It was in incredible condition. We had James arranged a number of principal players to go check it out, got shipped to us from Chicago, retuned, rebuilt here, and it's a real prize to have as part of our stock and stage. So what really happened in our year one? We had 16,646 tickets sold since opening, and that is in the first 12 months. We've had more, including this season in the summer. We know 8% of those 1,367 tickets were sold to people out of the area. 852 of those were from Washington, but beyond the peninsula, and 515 were from out of state. They came to shows like Macy Gray, Vienna Boys Choir, and we have some upcoming world-class performances. Moomin Shans is a globally touring, well-known 50-year-old silent puppetry and theater creative movement company from based in Geneva. This is a Boise, Indiana dance troupe, contemporary dance called LED Dance, are also coming this fall. Exquisite, creative, contemporary work. This shows us a bit of a map of where these people came from in the first year. You can see from Alaska to Hawaii, to the Northeast, to the Southeast, Southwest, but we're I like to say in a most positive and loving way, it's like Port Angeles and Field Art Centers, it's creating measles across the country when you look at a map like this. This is from our summer data. We were very curious about summer and what it looks like, but this is focused just on that kind of 50-mile range and looking in that sort of beyond that 50-mile and say, where in Washington, our local area, do we get, so we can drill down and continue to advertise. So we see Port Townsend really picking up and coming here. Almost every show, and word of mouth in Port Townsend. I'm hearing people saying, oh, I'm from Port Townsend. This is the first time I've been in Port Angeles for 10 years. And they're coming out and seeing performances here. But from Olympia, you can see a fair amount from Seattle, just making some headway in Victoria. And we intend and will focus on growing this.
So, Steve, that was outside of Clown, obviously. It's
Correct.
from where people coming from that are not in Clown. Okay.
Correct. But it's not looking, this did not capture far beyond like New York State. We wanted to see, we're looking at patterns of that kind of tier around Clallam where we think people will stay over and where they're coming in from.
Oh, but it does.
Probably won't stay over from Joyce, but from Forks they do sometimes.
Okay.
This number was collected in 2015. So adjusting it, I adjusted it to my estimated inflation rate. So we know inflation has gone up quite a bit since 2015. But in 2015, it looked at the average expenditure for somebody who goes to the arts, spends $31.47. My personal estimate, working on the calculator last night, it was $50.98 per person in today's dollars. So we can see they spend on meals, local ground transportation, gifts, childcare, overnight lodging, clothing, window shopping, and right in our community. And this does not include cost of admission to the ticketed performance. So our rental events and guests have economic impact. The conference center was a big request, which was, I think, beautifully fulfilled. And we're getting quite a lot, even surpassing the theater guests. 16,893 total guests for all rental events. 18 to 22% of those came from 50 miles away. So that looks at a 3,040 to 3,716 probable overnight guests. If some of them stayed multiple nights, then it increases that number really exponentially. So the total with performance, our most accurate and conservative guess from the first year is we made 5,083 overnight stays. And again, that's based on a single night. If people were staying 2 nights or 3 nights, you can see how it would just double, triple these numbers. And I am wrapping up, getting towards, I know I have 5 more minutes for my presentation. I think we'll make it. I want to share, I think, a big success story about workforce development. We just finished our first year with a partnership with Peninsula College and Field Arts and Events Hall co-applied and received $1 million in Economic Development Administration funds to establish a media lab at Field Hall. As you can see, our 2 instructors and a couple of students in the back there were actually part of the build, created the media lab, hung lights, all of our lights throughout the venue. It's a fully accredited certificate program to become a media technician in sound, lighting, video, and theater in both the theater and hospitality trades. We have 4 classes that utilize Field Hall as a classroom. And one of the first graduates in the first graduating class, we were able, through a WorkSource sponsored program, hire a full-time and pay living wage for one of our student graduates. So they're with us 40 hours a week at a living wage. Started 2 weeks ago. We are also working with Peninsula College. There's more to come with workforce development program. We're in the process of planning an arts administration certificate. So it'd be incredibly powerful to have an arts administration and media technician dual certificate student. I'll share a short video about our Peninsula Performs, our work in the schools. We believe in really youth intervention, and the more we can get in to positively bring arts support learning into the schools. And here we go. This was a middle school program at
I
Stevens
think
Middle School.
everyone should try art a little bit. You can just express yourself in any way possible. And I don't know, I think it's a great thing for everyone.
These experiences matter. They are not just time fillers. That art in and of itself is enough to be a focal point in learning.
It's fun, old school.
So it is incredibly important to our mission to support our community as many ways as much as possible. Those who've used the building that we've been able to support, staff support, and really energize and elevate activities of Olympic Medical Center Foundation, the Juan de Fuca Foundation for the Arts, PA City Ballet, First Fed, North Olympic Builders Association, Faro Marine Life Center, and the Marine Discovery Center, PA Symphony, PA Education Foundation, Port Angeles, Lower Elwha Clallam Tribe. Many more have received benefit and engagement and had support for events. And as you saw, it is a multi-billion-dollar industry across the country, arts and culture, tourism, and we are consciously doing our best to support local artists and local nonprofits to be able.
County PUD, this is Nathaniel Extravagant. How can I help you?
Sorry about that. Got him on mute. Go ahead, Steve.
So that is, so yeah, so just to wrap up, we've transformed this spot of land you're looking at where it was a parking lot to this really vibrant arts economic anchor for Port Angeles, but we do have a future. The Port Angeles Waterfront Center will include the Marine Discovery Center and the Lower Elwha Clallam Cultural Longhouse. When all of that is in place, I would guess in 8 years, we'll see the full realization of this, that we'll have a nationally known destination that will give an unbelievable amount of quality experience to those who live here, as well as draw from around the country, and I would think certainly internationally as well. So that was our overview from the first year and some of the numbers we've collected, and look at that, 8:40 right on the dot, or just what you asked me to do.
Thank you so much. Well, really special presentation, and it is a magnet for not just Port Angeles, but our entire community. It's just, it's amazing. And I think we're also proud that we have this incredible asset here in our community. So does anyone have any questions for Steve? Randy, go right ahead.
Thank you, Steve, very much. I thought that was a great presentation. I recall when Brooke Taylor is making at the beginning part, look into pro forma financials as you went forward, there was a major component related to conventions of all varieties, I think. And I just was wondering how that, or what you think about that as you move forward.
Yeah, so it's very, very strong, Randy, and it was a brilliant idea, and it's absolutely important to our business plan. The rental revenues that come in they are more profitable overall, and it is a design to help support the building, the overhead, while providing a service and still fulfilling our mission as a nonprofit. So we know that with the strategy within the first year, that it was, it's a little bit lower hanging fruit to be able to go out and have somebody like Macy Gray or Vienna Boys Choir or Noche Flamenca, who are globally well known, and be able to come in and create the stature, reputation, and get known throughout the region. So the focus was, that's what we knew we could do right out the gate. The reaching out to associations that say have their, I know one you and I have talked about, Randy, is the Washington Clerks Association. And that, a lot of these associations plan out 3 or 4 years. So we're getting out in front of that of the curve with great collateral and great conversations, and people are coming to events. So for example, this past weekend, we had a birthday party on Friday. We had a wedding on Saturday. The wedding had 120 guests. The parents were of the bride were in Squim, so they have a network of friends. So the more people that come in for those social events, high school events, are connected to places that have businesses. And this year coming up, we do have we have a couple of larger multi-day events. We just met with the Port Angeles fire chief, who's looking at a fire investigators conference, which is a 4-day conference, bringing 75 to 100 people in. So we're looking at if we can move into making those happen. But the rental market's a little bit of it was a wait and see. They said, before I put down my money and have an event here, I want to go into the space, touch it, feel it, see what it's like before I personally invest. Whereas artists saw this, they get booked and put on the stage, and then people come in. So that transition from arts forward to conference is going to be a 2-3 year crossfade. And we're going to see easily equal weight, if not the conference and events outpacing arts within the next couple of years.
The second half of that comment is I've always wished that the Washington Association of Counties would come, but that also requires hotels very close by in enough capacity. So, and back to a chicken and egg, I guess. So anyway, but thank you.
Yeah, we have certainly some good capacity with Red Lion, and if we can get the Dupar, Andean Shores, which will have short-term rentals, and the Lower Elwha Clallam Hotel, those would be 2 great assets, even closer, that could encourage more rentals and conferences. I will say we have lost some weddings and conferences this past year for some lack of rooms on the nights that they wanted to host their events.
Lena, you had a question?
Yeah, so I'm involved and on the board for a local nonprofit called Ian's Ride. And I don't know if you've heard of Ian, but his vision and the nonprofit's vision is to promote outdoor accessibility for those with mobility impairment issues. And he is just doing lots of crazy things. And one of the things is he's being featured in a documentary that's going to be at the Sundance Film Festival. And one of the things that we talked about at the board meeting was whether or not we could have a showing of the documentary featured at the Field Arts and Events Hall. And so I'm not sure how that would work. I know you talked about some of the sponsorships, but I would be really curious as to how we could partner with Ian's Ride, the nonprofit, and the Field Arts and Events Hall, and have a showing of this documentary about Ian and his story. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, you should really check out his website, which is iansride.com, and find out about the amazing things that he has done with his, during this adventure.
Yeah, great question. I love it. That's what Field Hall is here for, is to support and elevate, bring people together, make our community stronger. That's our mission. So reaching out to me, which is Steve at fieldhallevents.org is a great way to start. There are, we especially because, as you heard at the beginning of our presentation, there was the COVID impact that we had all funds in hand for the original price. Price went up $10 million. We're battling to pay that off currently. So our ability to be generous with the space is complicated right now with the need to pay off the building. So once we get through that, we can be, we anticipate, and part of our strategy is to be much, much more open in terms of the financial hurdle. But we've been able to get around that with some ways. For example, when a Dream Playground burned down and we really wanted to help with fundraising, we met with the board of the Dream Playground and said, could we be a partner? Here's what we need to do. And there's certain base costs. We figure out how much it will just cost as a break even for Field Hall. There was an individual sponsor who said, I'll personally cover that, so that Field Hall was not taking a financial loss, which we can't shoulder the burden of it at this point. Hopefully in the future, we're trying to look at creating reserves where we could pull out of to do that, but through some individual sponsorship or potentially sharing parts of proceeds. But there's ways in which to come in, and we can talk about those models. But I thought it was a great partnership with Dream Playground. They made funds. People came in, had a community update, had a great experience. We watched a family-friendly movie, and all walked away whole or better. And it was part of that. So let's try to do that.
Great, thank you.
Stephen, you have a question for Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Colleen. Steve, really, congratulations on a stellar first year. My wife and I are always impressed at the various events and performances at Field Hall. My question's related to just the effective utilization rate of the different spaces within Field Hall. Are we utilizing the theater as much as you'd like? And then you mentioned that, the non-theater, the visitors to the rental spaces exceeding the kind of theater guests. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some more of those statistics? How many weddings are we doing? How many fundraisers, birthdays? Is our McGraw room really being utilized? And even the coffee shop activities. I'm just curious, as you look across the different spaces, how well are they being utilized? Where do you see some more upside, or where are we fully booked? I don't know. Is every Saturday for next wedding calendar booked? I don't know. I'd love to hear some insights there.
Great question, Steve. Thanks for coming and supporting as often as you do. I think the firsthand experience is a great telltale. Most of you have been in, and when you look around, you can see how full it is. It has more than doubled our initial projections. So we were looking at 35,000 people to come through per year. We're over 70 from our first year, and we are pushing to aggressively build that. When we are operating, I would say, at about 4 events per week, and these are larger, whether they're public or private events. Sometimes we can do multiple events, such as this birthday party and concert on the same night this past Friday. Sometimes when it's a wedding takeover and they're doing the whole space, we can open the gallery and the coffee shop, keep those locked to the interior so that a wedding can happen on the second floor, whether it be a ceremony earlier in the day. So we've been able to utilize and activate our different spaces for different activities and control crowd management and shuttle them in there. That allows us to stack one on top of the other, utilizing the building. That's not always possible. So like the evening of that Saturday, it was only the wedding event in the conference center. As we age, we'll come up with better and better practices where we know we can anticipate and host those stacked multiple events. But to get back to, I don't have the specific number of weddings. It is, I will say, similar to the answer I gave to Randy, it is amplifying at an exponential rate. The calls that we're getting, the inquiries from whether it's associations or personal families to say, we've heard about this space, or we've been to an event, can we come and look in? And then that moving to booking is going well. When we first started last year, we didn't even have the year full. Now we have some things out, booked on the calendar, 2 and 3 years. So a complex organization such as this, where we're in talks with people about 3 to 5 years out, and we get more and more on the books, we're looking at saturating that calendar as we move forward. So the plan and the pro forma had always anticipated kind of a loss going at years 1 through 3 as we ramp up to set those events further out on the calendar. But I will say we are impressed by the numbers are more than 100% greater than what the original projections were.
Wow, congratulations again. I couldn't agree more with the statement you made in that recorded segment. It really does feel like a renaissance is happening for our town, and you're a key partner in that. So thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
So John Temple had a question regarding attracting events, specifically conferences. Have you thought about targeting specific groups like veterinary medical with secondary objective of showing attendees the beauty of the area and perhaps excite them to move here? Obviously, we need more medical doctors and veterinarians.
Definitely. Well, so some of this is, as we saw from the Americans for the Arts quote, that arts is a big factor for quality of life and retaining talent. So we have been, in conversations. Certainly, I think Paul's on the call from the port. I hope, I'm not, that feels like a attractive tool. I know you came in when you first came here and said you were excited for this place to open up, and it was a kind of a draw. I think I've heard firsthand. With the hospital and the college, we're very involved with so many professors coming in. But in terms of that question, are we proactively going out and trying to recruit specific conferences and associations? The answer is yes, absolutely. And if anybody on the call has contacts, so many people in Port Angeles sit on boards or are part of associations that are statewide or national. Your connection and recommendation is gold. So if you can recommend Port Angeles as a place, and right now it's like the shiny new thing, so many places have not had the opportunity to come out and host a conference. With Field Arts and Events Hall coming online, it is perfect for a lot of organizations and associations, whether it's a one-day retreat or multi-day retreat. And there is a great sweet spot around 150 to 200 people is really, really nice.
I know I attend many conferences in Spokane Valley, the other side of the state. So when I work with Washington Public Ports Authority or the Washington State Department of Commerce that puts on conferences, or the Washington Economic Development Association, all of those conferences have hundreds of people, and the Field Arts and Events Hall would be a wonderful place to host those. And it's about our time for our turn, I feel like. So met with Georgia about that. We just need, it's hard when we don't have that proximity, better proximity for the hotel. And you're right, as soon as those two open up, I think you'll get even more demand for conferences out here.
And I want to thank you, Colleen. Colleen, you came in the other day and sat down with Georgia Myers, our Director of Sales and Marketing for Conferences and Events, and gave her contacts and context to reach out, which she has followed up with those organizations. Yeah. So that's a really, really helpful move. Thank you.
Absolutely. And other people that should be doing the same, I think, to help out Field Hall. So Stephen asks as a follow-up, have you shared this presentation with the tribe? The comment that you had to turn away business because of lack of lodging capacity may help in their search for funding to get the hotel built.
I have reached out to Francis and tribal members. I let them know that we have lost. I said we have lost conferences because of lack of rooms for the nights that they've wanted them. And so just to say, please speed this along. I've also let the tribe know that we have we could bring in even more caterers and vendors online when people are interested. They want to see have a wedding out here. And so I think the tribe also has a potential with their they have 2 commercial kitchens to come in on being a food caterer as well.
All right. Great. So are there any more questions? We're about at the 9 o'clock hour. So with that, Stephen, thank you so much for, and your board and your staff. You really have an exceptional staff that mirrors the beauty of the facility. So really excited to have this as a new element of Port Angeles and Clallam County and the Olympic Peninsula. So thanks
Colleen.
again. And this recording will be on our website later on today. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.